Thanks for listening to Hustle and Heart. I'm your host, Edie Weintraub. Today we're talking to Billy Kramer, founder of NFA Burgers. Billy, thank you so much for being here. Please
Thank
tell
you
us a
for
little
having
bit
me.
about. Thank you. Please tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am Billy Kramer, and I'm the owner and founder of NFA Burger, and I live here in Dunwoody, Georgia.
Gonna have to expand on that a little bit
Expand.
more. For those who don't know NFA Burger, right? If you're living under a rock and you're not in Atlanta today, help
Right.
us understand
Okay.
how NFA came into being.
That's fair. So NFA Burger is a burger joint in a gas station. We have a 100 square foot kitchen, and I've been operating since December 3rd, 2019. The night before, I just told my wife, I said, I think I need to start cooking tomorrow. And so I just went in and opened and sold 3 burgers. I'll get to the backstory in a second. About 3 days later, my sister called me, who lives here in Atlanta, by the way, and said, I heard you opened a burger joint. And I said, that's true. And she said, how come you didn't tell me? And I said, well, in all fairness, I didn't tell anybody. And so, so that was the beginning of owning NFA Burger. Prior to that, I was in the advertising industry for 25 years or so, having worked in radio, 680 The Fan and 96 Rock here in Atlanta, and then national advertising. I owned my own high school sports publication for a while. And quite frankly, I was just miserable in my career and started blogging about burgers and started cooking burgers at home just to get a release. And eventually my friend said, these are pretty good. Maybe you should try a pop-up. So I did a pop-up at Battle and Brew. It was horrible. And I say that with like a smile on my face because it wasn't horrible from the perspective of like nobody came. It was horrible from the perspective that a lot of people came and got a really subpar experience from what I would have preferred for them to have. And that was because I had never worked in a kitchen before. So that was my first foray into cooking in a real kitchen. And then that following Monday, I set out to solve all the problems I had in the pop-up, which were a grill that the temperature dropped too quickly, and pre-seasoning the patties, which wound up being a disaster. The whole thing. Like, I'm pretty sure people who were at that pop-up have never been for another burger since. So if you're hearing this or watching this, please come back. Yes.
Love that. So with going into food and beverage, who's been your biggest mentor in this food journey?
I don't have one mentor. I mean, when I started blogging about burgers, I would talk to any chef or cook or owner that would talk to me. So to pin down to one would be unfair because anybody who's ever let me in their kitchen is technically a mentor. So it could be Nick Leahy, who now runs Vice Kitchen, when he was running X and the other place, or Matt Hyland, who co-founded Emmy Squared up in New York. I was just at his new restaurant in San Antonio, or in Austin, called Zoe Tong. It could be really any of these people. It could be George from Farm Burger. It could be Daryl Dollinger, who runs franchise operations for Cinnaholic and Flying Biscuit. It could be Jeff Malconian, a breadwinner. It's just David Abus. It's just so many people that I have in my Rolodex. George Motes, I can call at any second of the day and say, I'm having this issue or I need to brainstorm, and they will all stop what they're doing and talk to me. So mentor is probably not a fair word. It's more like a Rolodex of just really helpful people.
For those youngins who are listening who don't know what a Rolodex is,
Right.
It is AKA contacts, your
Right.
friends, your network, people that are saved in your phone.
I didn't say file of facts. I did say Rolodex, so I didn't even go that weird on everybody.
Absolutely. No, I saw one in an antique shop recently and I had to teach my son what it was. This was pre-saving all these contacts in your phone.
My dad actually, up until the day he died, had a Rolodex, which is like, God, how long was that? 6.5 years ago. He had a Rolodex. He didn't have anything digitized. So when he passed away, it was just like literally going through all of his numbers and calling people.
It's a great way to kind of go back through history too.
Yeah.
So having gone from Battle and Brew to opening in the gas station, what has been your biggest aha moment?
Well, I'm gonna ask, like, define aha moment. What do you?
Something that you didn't anticipate that you discovered along the way, or
Oh my God. Well, I didn't anticipate any of it. I really, in all honesty, thought that when I opened, I was so unhappy in my career. I didn't realize how unhappy I was until probably a couple of months in, and my wife is like, "I've never seen you this happy," and we've been together since high school, so she's like, "I've never seen you this happy," and I said, "Yeah, I didn't realize how miserable I was." So the first aha moment was, man, that first Saturday we were in business. We had a line around the building, and so word got out from 3 burgers on Tuesday to a line around the building on Saturday. Was pretty awesome. It was a big eye-opener for me because I had this whole vision of like writing names on bags, and it was going to be really personal, and I was going to make like 50 burgers a day, and it would just be me and like one other person, and I'd be pretty happy and just go home and have like a normal, dinner with the family and hang out and do that stuff. And then on day 5, it all kind of fell apart because it turns out that writing orders on bags when you have 50 people in line and only having one other cook is probably not the best way to do things. My son, who is graduating in a week from high school, he was on the register that first Saturday. And we didn't, as to say register, be like, make it sound like we had a real system. We had no printers, no nothing. We just had stacks of bags with orders on them, like 2 burgers and 1 tater tot, and that was everything. And to this day, my manager, who has worked in high volume pizza places on Super Bowl Sunday, says to this day that first Friday was the craziest day he's ever had in what is now his 12th year in the restaurant industry. So that was my first aha moment. I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. And then COVID hit a couple months later, and it didn't really impact us as harshly as it did other restaurants. Fortunately for us, unfortunately for others. And then like every 3 months, I would ask like these people who work for me, who've been in the restaurant industry a long time, I'm like, hey man, how do I know that this is real? Like, how do I know this line won't stop? And I'm still not convinced to this day. We've done very well, but I always tell everybody, like, this could be you could have bought the last burger we made. I have no clue what's going to happen, in the next minute, much less tomorrow. So my aha moments are still happening on a daily basis because I have no experience in the restaurant industry. So everything to me it's like a newborn. Every time you wake up, it's like there's going to be something else that you learned today.
beautiful story though, because you're always ready. That's what I love about restaurants is every day's a blank slate. You get to start that story all over again. It's like living in Groundhog Day.
Well, sometimes that's great. Sometimes, it's frustrating, but the goal is to prevent, mistakes are going to happen. The goal is to prevent them from happening twice. So that's what keeps me going is like, all right, we messed that up. How do we stop it from happening tomorrow or the next order, much less tomorrow, right? So it's not even like let's regroup and have a meeting and we'll discuss it and implement changes next week. At NFA, if there's a change that can be made on the fly, we're making it. We're not waiting for anything.
It's good to be nimble like that. So I'm still in shock that your GM, despite that crazy first day, opted to stay with you and saw that there was opportunities to improve. Bravo.
I will say, well, because I said, look, man, because when I used to work in the kitchen all the time, people would look behind, it's an open kitchen. People would see me and they would just see this look on my face and it looked like I was unhappy or like stressed out. Really what I was doing, and I'm always doing it, is I was thinking about how to make this better. Like that's all I was thinking about. Like even while I was smashing burgers, I'm like, okay, we have all these bags stacked up. What do I need to do tomorrow when we close? What's the first thing I need to do? And that's just the thing that's going through my mind. And so I think he's become pretty. He doesn't he knows that I'm not going to just let things continue to go spiral in some weird way. So it kind of brings some calm. Also, he's pretty patient, and I'm thankfully for that. And he's been in the restaurant industry like 8 years longer than, at this point, 7 years longer than I have. So he's seen really stupid stuff and crazy stuff, and he's served 20,000 wings on a Sunday during the Super Bowl or whatever the number was, right? So having 50 burgers in the queue, while alarming and scary, he knows that eventually we're going to fill them all and we'll open tomorrow, right? Whereas in my head, I'm like, oh my God, these people will never come back. How do I stop that from happening? So
yeah, even balance amongst the two of you.
Right.
So what in your previous career has set you up for success at NFA?
Well, two things. One is, well, in a weird way, it started my interest in burgers because I was so miserable that I would find things to do on the road to keep me entertained. And one of those was, find a good burger in another city. So that kind of got my passion. I always loved burgers from when I was a kid, but never had that passion to figure it out. The first sales job I ever had was for 96 Rock. And I worked for a woman named Cheryl Irvin. She still is in the radio industry here in Atlanta. And she called me into her office one day, and she was talking to me about something. I was really green, and I started asking her questions. And she just said, I'm gonna curse. You can bleep it out or whatever. She said, God damn it, Billy, you asked so many questions. And I said, oh, I'm really sorry. She's like, no, it's awesome. It's just sometimes it's infuriating, but she's like, you're going to be a really good leader one day. And so that's actually that kind of moment. It was like, okay, don't be afraid to ask questions. No matter how infuriating it is. Our handyman who comes in and fixes our grills and stuff, I'm surprised he still works with us because I ask him every question every time. Hey, what, wrench are you using? Or, what gasket is that? I'm just, curious pretty much all the time. So I think Cheryl actually gave me that calm to that confidence to just keep asking questions, which is how I am where I am today, because it's, asking Matt Hyland, what bun do you use and what meat do you use? And do you grind your own meat? Or asking Adam Biderman down at Company Burger, who used to work up here at Holman and Finch. I think Holman and Finch and Bocado. Hey man, I can't get the grill right. How do you do it? And just keep asking people all these questions. Because otherwise, if you don't ask, you don't get. So, there's no point. There's no part of me that wants to do something imperfectly. If I could just ask a question and do it right. I worked for a guy in my former career, at a startup. He said there's, what would he say? Basically, there's no reason to guess if you can ask. He said in some weird tech startup-y 24-year-old guru way, but that was basically it. If you can Google it or you can call somebody, there's no reason to just make up the answer. It's too easy to get the right answer.
There's too much good knowledge out there already. I just read a book recently about Steve Jobs. He said, everything that's already been created has been created. It is the creative's job to pull the pieces together to tell the story in a new way.
Right. Steve Jobs didn't invent the record. Right. He just figured out another way to show us how to access our content and our data. Right. So, that's a good example because it's there. It's now, what are we doing to make it better? How are we learning from what we see? And how do we move forward and make things more innovative or more exciting for people?
So with that, that's a great segue to my next question.
Uh-oh.
Is there a ritual or habit that, continues to inspire you, keeps you fresh and ready to tackle a new day?
All right. So this might be surprising to you, but the answer is no. I have none of that. I wish I did. I wish I had some great advice to give somebody, and like the thing that I do every day, I get up and I exercise, which I need to do, which I did this morning. Now, if I can do it 2 days in a row, that'd be a miracle. I think there was a movie, Cinderella Man, and at the end they're asking him, the Russell Crowe character, like, why do you do this? And he says, for milk. Right, so this is during the Depression, and he was on the food, the bread line, and getting welfare, and then he had to go back to boxing because their power was going out, and they didn't have enough food. And quite frankly, that's kind of where I was. December 2nd, 2019, it's like I hadn't had a job in a year and a half. I was so miserable. Every time I went on an interview, I was like, I can't do it. I took 2 jobs that lasted weeks. I was just so miserable. And so to paraphrase Russell Crowe, I'm doing it for milk. I mean, I'm not rich. I don't, trying to hold on, I'm holding on to what we have. We've done well, but not, I can't retire today, can't retire next year or anytime soon. So what drives me every day is that I have to do this. But what drives me even more was I'm not going to do something I don't want to do. I did that for a long time, and it destroyed my insides, literally and figuratively. Made me kind of a jerk to my family, not in an abusive or whatever way, but like noticeably different than when I started being happy. It was easier to notice like how unhappy I was and how much I thought I was hiding it from everybody. But the reality was I wasn't hiding it from anybody. They were just being nice and placating me. And so that's what kind of, that's what gets me going every day. When I speak, like I have people who call me now, like I want to start a food truck, or I want to start a restaurant, or I want to start a business. And I'll say, what are you doing now? And they'll tell me, I said, like, are you happy, unhappy? They're like, I'm miserable. I was like, all right, then you need to stop doing that. Like, I can't explain to you how much better your life is regardless of the money, like when you're just doing something. And I don't mean like staying home and watching TV all day. I'm not talking about that kind of happy. Like, I'm not talking being lazy. I'm talking about find something you really enjoy and trying to do it. And maybe you don't have the new Tesla that your friend has. Okay, that's okay. I can tell you that person probably has a lot of misery in their life, right? The happiest my family has ever been is, I know, honestly, when I didn't have a job. I was just around more, and we were just doing whatever we were doing, and eating whatever we ate, not going out and not trying to live like everybody else. So I'm trying to do that now, but with something I'm happy doing.
So with that, I'm curious, have you gotten any feedback from your kids? Because they're in that age group where I'm sure that they see the hard work that you're putting in. Obviously, you're working together. How do you feel like that has shaped them in seeing you in action and being able to work together?
Well, first off, my wife is the person that they look for work ethic. She's been a teacher, I think this is her 30th or 31st year. So she's been teaching, and if you included student teaching in college, I mean, she's been teaching for well over 30 years. She's the work ethic person. I was so miserable. I don't think anybody would ever look at me and go, man, I want to do that thing because my dad looks like he's having fun, right? But now I think they're looking at it, and I just stress to them, like they both go to college. My daughter is at Georgia, my son's going to Georgia. But I told both of them, I was like, I don't care if you go to college. I really don't. Like, if the thing you want to do doesn't require college, then we'll just go do that instead of messing around. And now, fortunately, they're on scholarship, so it's not like it's costing me $1 million like it costs other people. They're smart kids. They get that from their mother, too. But I mean, if there's something that if you want to be in film, you don't have to go to NYU or USC or Georgia. You can just go hang around, the sets of places and try and get yourself on a set and try and work. You just don't have to do it the way everybody else does. That's the part that I think kind of made me miserable. Is I thought like I had to do it like my dad did it. And what I didn't realize until it was too late was my dad was miserable the whole time. But he was just like, he's my dad, and his job is to pay the bills, and his job was to be miserable, so that the rest of us didn't have to be miserable. But that's actually not untrue, right? So that's what I'm trying to show my kids is you don't have to be miserable. Your lot in life doesn't have to be like misery because you have to take care of everything. Like you can actually have a good time and enjoy what you're doing. It just might mean that you have a different lifestyle than most. Like I have friends who work on Wall Street and they make 7 figures. And in all honesty, wouldn't trade my life for theirs in all. And they can do whatever they want. They can go wherever they want. Millions of sky points and all kinds of money. And I'm happy with my one vacation once in a blue moon. Like that's fine to me. Or a night out is going out and eating at a couple of restaurants instead of going away for a weekend, right? Like I'm okay with that. So that's what I'm hoping my kids are getting out of this experience is that you don't have to be miserable to keep up with other people. Like you can actually just do it your own way and be happy.
Sharing that. So where do you find inspiration? I would gather that you could, if you wanted to, still go on your burger journeys across the country, continuing to refine, especially looking for inspiration as perhaps there might be a future additional NFA Burgers in the near future. So do tell, what brings you inspiration?
Well, I actually just got back from a trip where I had 3 burgers in 3 days in 3 cities. So I have friends here in Atlanta who hate going out with me when I order a burger. Like, don't do it. You're not going to like it. And I said, yeah, but this might be the one that's better than mine. And I want to know why. And I want to figure it out. Is there something about this experience that's going to make mine better? I'll tell you 2 quick stories. One is Tony Luke Jr., who's part of the Tony Luke cheesesteak family. And Tony Luke Jr. was down here in Atlanta 2 years ago, I think at this point. And a friend of mine from up in Philly was like, hey, Tony Luke Jr. is there. Would you like to meet him? I was like, hell yeah. So I drove out to the airport. He was doing some testing for Delta. And one of the questions I will ask everybody in the restaurant industry is like, besides your product, who else makes a great product like yours? And he said, Angelo's makes a better cheesesteak than me. And I said, I was so confused by the statement. I was like, oh, you mean other than yours, you like Angelo's? He's like, no, Angelo's is better than mine. And I said, why would you say that? He's like, oh, Angelo makes his own bread. He had like all these reasons. And I said, why don't you make yours better than his? And he said, look, we're not making our own bread. He's like, and that's like the heart of Angelo's. It's like, if he doesn't like his bread, he'll close for the day. Like, which I think is pretty cool. It's something I would do. That's what actually was pretty cool. I was like, yeah, if I didn't like the meat or I didn't like something, I just wouldn't open for the day. So that's one thing. The other thing, there's a restaurant owner that I know who introduced me to his staff as the only burger that's better than his. And I went home and I told my wife, I said, I don't think I would ever do that. And she said, why? What if you had a burger that was better than yours? I'm like, then I would make mine better. Right? Like I wouldn't just go, oh, there's something better than mine. I would say, why is it better than mine? And can I do it better? Right? Is there something about it that I am missing? So, I wouldn't say those are that's not inspiration for me, but it kind of is like, there's no reason to settle for second, or there's no reason. I wouldn't say those guys are settling. They're not settling. They're doing their thing. They're, uber successful business people making way more money than I am. So there's nothing wrong with what they're doing. That's just part of what they do. Whereas the thing I want to do is I want you to have the best burger you've ever had. And if that means I make money doing it, awesome. And if I can retire earlier than I'm scheduled to retire, that means I did really well, and I'm happy for that. But I'm not selling out I want you to have the best burger you ever had. That's why I don't have more than one right now. And, Edie has tried you've tried many, many times to put me into another place. But if it's just not right, I just don't do it. I'm not in it for, and this, probably all the capitalists watching this are going to beat me up. I'm not in it for the money, because I feel like if I'm doing it right and I take care of my customers and I take care of my employees and I'm making a good product, I'm going to make money. So I don't wake up every day thinking, how can I make money? I think about how can I continue to put out a really consistent product and take care of my staff and take care of my customers, because that's the thing that brings people back. I saw a friend of mine, Derek Hayes, who owns Big Dave's Cheesesteaks. He's blown up. He's just sold like 15 franchises in the last 2 months or something crazy. And his wife, Pinky Cole, who owns Slutty Vegan. I just saw Derek's account post something the other day, like, what would make you come back to Big Dave's every week? Now, I didn't read the comments, and I understand the marketing aspect of that, just engaging customers. But the first thing that came to my mind is, well, you have to put out a consistently good product. And if you're doing that, then people will keep coming back, right? It's not a secret. But that's the first thing I thought of. It's like, oh, well, I think I'm already doing that, I hope. So we'll have more one day if I find the right opportunity. Jeff Melkonian from Breadwinner, I called him up about 3 years ago, and I said, how do you know when it's time to open a second location? And he said, if you can be just as happy with the second as you are with the first, then do it. And quite frankly, that's probably the best advice anybody's giving me, because it wasn't related to money. It was related to like the thing that I am enjoying about this, which is my happiness and my family's happiness and my employees. It's not about, like, we're closed Sundays and Mondays. I could be open Sundays and Mondays. I could be open Tuesday nights and Wednesday nights. I could do all those things and I would make more money. I'd probably also be churning through staff like nobody's business. And that's not exciting to me. Like, the people who've worked for me, for the most part, have worked for me for years now. And I've only been open 4.5 years. So when I say years, that's like pretty cool. When I met Chris Hall and Ryan Turner from Us and Turners for dinner one night, talking about like mentors, like those are guys you ask questions to, questions of. So we were having dinner and at one of their places, and I said, how long have all these employees worked here? So one by one, somebody would walk by and they'd say, like, how long have you been here? 7 years. How long have you been here? 9 years. How long have you been here? 8 years. And I'm like, that's the hallmark of somebody who's taking care of their employees, right? And so that's actually one of the things I'm most proud of, is that like people work for me for a long time, because that means they enjoy it. Because you can go get a job anywhere right now. There are people in the Beltline who will quit and walk over to the next place and have a job by end of shift. And I wish I was kidding, but I'm not. So I have a pretty good staff, so I take care of them. They know what I expect. They know I'm not just making food. I want somebody to have the best burger they ever had. And if they do that, the people will come back. If they come back, they might leave a tip for the crew. They come back more frequently. They bring more people. It puts food on their table. So they know that taking care of people with a consistent product is actually beneficial, whereas I don't think they all knew that in other jobs they had before. We're here, they're all on the front line. Like, they see the customers. Like when I mess up an order on register, Sean will say, like, hey, Billy, I think that guy usually gets no pickles. And I'll be like, oh. So I'll go out to the car and say, hey, my chef said that you usually get no pickles. He's like, oh yeah, I forgot to say no pickles. Right? So then I go back in and I change the order. I'm like, good catch. You don't get that from people who don't care. Right? You're like, that guy will get pickles today. Maybe he wanted pickles today. Maybe he did, but let's find out and get it right. So
beautiful to see how connected they are and how they recall the regular customers.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
So where can our listeners get more information about you beyond obviously stopping in and enjoying a great burger?
It's a great question. So about me personally or about NFA? NFA, you can go to nfaburger.com, Instagram. I'm going to take a second to plug the burger benefit because this podcast will be out by the time we will have announced the date. So I'll go ahead and do that. So we're going to do September 15th. For those of you who don't know what the burger benefit is, late February, I was watching a movie I was listening to a podcast called The Sporkful by Dan Pashman, and he had an episode about the movie The Menu. And actually, it was a combo. It was about, what was the topic? The topic was food on TV. So it was a conversation about the bear and about the menu of the movie. So he had the chef who created the burger for the movie, The Menu, behind the scenes for Liam. I'm blanking on the guy's name. Liam Neeson, right? Is it? No, Ralph Fiennes. Sorry, Ray Fiennes. And so I Instagrammed the guy and I said, "Hey, would you want to do a pop-up?" He's down in Savannah. He's like, "Yeah, let's do a pop-up." And then I said, "Hey, what if we did your burger and you came up here and we just did the burger from the menu?" It's like, great idea. And then I got off the phone. I was like, what if I invited chefs from all over the country to do it? And I started game planning this thing. And so by May 7th, we did our first annual burger benefit, our inaugural burger benefit. And we raised over $50,000 for the Giving Kitchen, which is a charity that helps food service workers. It's an amazing charity. That was part of my food trip this past weekend. I went to a couple of out-of-state events for Giving Kitchen. We were going to do it every May, but the Giving Kitchen has Team Heidi in March, and I didn't want to slam them with that again. So we're moving it to September 15th. It'll be at NFA like it was last year. 20 chefs. I don't know what the format will be, but we're going to invite chefs. Again, I don't know which burger we're cooking. Last year we did the burger from the menu. Everybody did their own version. We had James Beard. This is pretty cool. James Beard nominated chefs fly in to make a burger that a guy they never met asked them to make, but in their own way. So like Vinny Cimino, who's nominated for James Beard this year, did Kool-Aid pickles. Instead of he's like, well, I'm not just doing pickles out of a jar. I'll do my own pickles. So we made Kool-Aid pickles. It was just a lot of fun. So we're going to do that September 15th and at NFA. But this year we're going to invite chefs from all around the country and the world to have their own day at their own restaurant for the burger benefit. So that if they can't make it, or there's obviously not enough space for 500 chefs at NFA. So that's the goal, actually, is to have 500 different participating restaurants to donate $2 million for the Giving Kitchen. And so that is that. So you can get more information on burgerbenefit.com. Facebook, I'm one of the most accessible restaurant owners in the world, and I don't say that lightly. I mean, if you email me or private message me, I will respond to you. May not be immediately, but I will respond to you. If you have a concern about your visit to NFA, you can always come to me. As I tell everybody in line, if you think the CEO of Google and Yelp and Facebook can fix your problem, by all means, go tell the world. If you actually want it fixed, you have to come tell me. So again, I'm one of the most accessible people. I think that's also one of the things I learned from all these other, I would call them, you call them mentors, but is that they all answer the questions. None of them hide from anything. So come talk to me. If you ever want to talk burgers, opening a business, I'm never going to talk you out of anything, but I'll help you out. So, and also they say the camera adds 15 pounds. Right now, there are a lot of cameras on me, as Chandler would say.
You look great. Thank you.
Well, this is what 4 days of eating in Austin and Nashville and Charlotte will do.
So is that getting added to the blog? Can we get a sneak peek of your adventures, or are you retired from that?
I don't know. I did post one story already. It was a burger joint up in Nashville called Dream Burger. Cole was a participant of the burger benefit. I had 3 smash burgers this weekend in 3 different cities. This was by far the best. I went to Zoe Tong in Austin. I will post about that. That was a great experience. They're going to open a new barbecue place Saturday. Opening a barbecue place in Austin, no one takes that lightly, right? It's like cheesesteaks in Philly, right? You won't be open very long if you can't make a great cheesesteak in Philly, right? That's just not a thing. So they hired some great pit masters from a world famous barbecue place, and they opened Saturday, so I'm hoping to go back and do that. Charlotte, we did a Given Kitchen event. There were 8 chefs. It was a tasting. It was an 8-course meal. And I didn't really know how special it was going to be. Like, these were James Beard award-winning top chef participants. 1 or 2 of them beat Bobby Flay. It was pretty amazing. So we had some like really fun food. And I'll go back to Charlotte and have like have a different experience. But I'll post about some of those things. We'll see.
Billy, we've enjoyed having you today. Thanks for sharing all the insights of your culinary journey. To our listeners, thank you for tuning in. Until next time, keep savoring the flavors of success and stay hungry for more stories from leaders and innovators in the culinary world.
This is Billy Kramer. You're listening to Hustle and Heart with Edie Weintraub.